You have been feeling it for days now, maybe even weeks. A quiet shift beneath the surface of your life, something you could not name but could not ignore either. A sense that something is about to change, that the ground beneath your feet is moving, that the atmosphere around your life is being rearranged by hands far greater than your own. That feeling was not anxiety. It was not confusion. It was not the ordinary restlessness that comes from a hard season. That feeling was a signal. Heaven was preparing you to receive something. And before the gift could be placed in your hands, you needed to understand what you had already survived. You are not here by accident. The fact that your eyes are seeing these words right now, the fact that something inside you felt compelled to stop and pay attention, that is not coincidence. That is divine orchestration. God does not waste moments, and He does not waste the people He has chosen. Right now, in this very instant, heaven has pressed pause on the noise of your ordinary day to deliver something to you that your spirit has been waiting to hear. So do not rush past this. Do not let busyness of life pull you away before you have received what was sent specifically for you. Because here is what you need to know. You have been in a test, not a test designed to break you, but a test designed to reveal you. There is a difference between a trial that is meant to destroy and a trial that is meant to prove. And what you have been walking through, those long seasons of silence, those moments when the prayers felt like they were hitting the ceiling and falling back to the floor, those days when you gave love and received nothing in return, those moments were not signs that God had abandoned you. They were signs that God was watching you more closely than He ever had before. Think about what it means for something to be tested. When gold is placed into fire, it is not because the goldsmith wants to destroy the gold. It is because the fire is the only thing that can separate what is pure from what is not. The fire does not create the gold's value. The fire reveals it. And beloved, you have been in that fire. You have felt the heat of betrayal, the scorching weight of loneliness, the burning ache of loving people who did not love you back, of serving a God who seemed silent, of holding on to faith when everything in the natural world told you to let go. But you did not let go. You stayed. You kept loving. You kept believing. And that right there is the evidence that you passed. God does not test what He does not value. He does not place something ordinary into extraordinary fire. The intensity of what you have been through is not evidence of punishment. It is evidence of potential. The enemy of your soul does not attack people who pose no threat. He does not target the average, the indifferent, the uncommitted. He targets the ones whose love, if fully activated, would dismantle the structures of darkness in their families, in their communities, in their generations. He targeted you because He already knew what you were carrying. And what you are carrying is a love so deep, so divinely wired, so rooted in something that goes beyond emotion and feeling, that the only way to determine whether it was real was to put it under pressure and watch what came out. And what came out of you was faithfulness. What came out was perseverance. What came out was a love that held on, even when holding on made no logical sense. You prayed when you did not feel like praying. You praised when your heart was heavy. You extended grace to people who had wounded you. You showed up for God even when you felt like God was not showing up for you. And through every single one of those moments, something was being documented in heaven. Your choices were being recorded. Your faithfulness was being weighed. And the verdict has now come back, and it is in your favor. Before we go further, I want you to do something right now. If you believe that God has been testing your love and that you are still standing, if something in your spirit is confirming that this message was made for you, Type the number 888 in the comments right now. 888 is a number that carries the resonance of new beginnings, of resurrection, of divine overflow. It is the number of what comes after the test, the abundance that follows, faithfulness, the harvest that rewards the one who did not quit in the planting season. Type it right now as a declaration that you hear what heaven is saying over your life. Because what God is about to show you in the coming moments of this message is not a theory. It is not a motivational concept. It is to make you feel temporarily better about a difficult situation. What God is about to unfold before you is the truth about why you were chosen, why you were tested, and why the fact that you are still standing, still loving, still believing is one of the most powerful spiritual realities in the universe right now. You did not come this far by accident. You did not survive what you survived by chance. Every sleepless night, every tear you cried when no one else was watching, every moment you chose faith over fear and love over bitterness, those moments were building something in the spirit that the natural eye cannot yet see, but that heaven has already celebrated. Your season is changing, not someday, now. And it begins with understanding the fire you have already walked through. There is something sacred about the way love chooses to remain. Not the love that stays because it is easy. Not the love that endures because the conditions are favorable. But the love that plants its feet into the ground when every circumstance is screaming at it to walk away. That is the love that God was looking for in you. And that is exactly the love that you demonstrated. Not just once, not just in a single moment of inspiration, but again and again, through seasons that were long and heavy and filled with a silence that could have crushed a lesser spirit. Think back to the moments that tested you most deeply, not the small inconveniences, not the minor disappointments, but the moments that reached into the center of your chest and squeezed. The moment someone you trusted completely turned their back on you. The moment a relationship you had poured your whole heart into collapsed without warning. The moment you prayed with everything you had and the answer did not come the way you expected, or the way you needed, or at the time you were barely holding on. Those moments were not random occurrences in an indifferent universe. Those moments were carefully permitted by a God who knew exactly how much pressure your love could bear, and who was watching with full attention to see what you would do when the pressure reached its peak. And here is what you did. You did not harden. That is the miracle that most people overlook when they think about what you have been through. Hardening is the natural human response to repeated pain. When something burns you enough times, the instinct is to build walls, to close off, to protect yourself by shutting down the very parts of you that make you vulnerable to being hurt again. And no one would have blamed you for doing that. No one would have pointed a finger at you and called you faithless if you had decided that the cost of staying soft was simply too high. But you did not make that choice. Somewhere deep inside you, in a place that logic could not reach and pain could not fully penetrate, something held, something refused to close, something kept the door of your heart open even when every wound was crying out for it to be sealed shut. That something was the love of God living inside you. Not your own love alone, because your own love has limits, as all human love does. But the love of God that was placed within you when He chose you, that love has no ceiling. It does not run dry. It does not retreat in the face of pain. It does not negotiate with betrayal and agree to become bitterness. It remains. It persists. It holds the line. And the fact that you did not harden, the fact that you came through fire after fire and emerged, still tender, still willing, still capable of compassion and mercy and genuine care for others, that is not your achievement alone. That is the fingerprint of God on your character. That is evidence that His love is not just something you believe in from a distance, but something that has been woven into the very fabric of who you are. You have to understand something about the nature of the test you were in. God never tests you to gather information for Himself. He is omniscient. He already knows what is in your heart before a single moment of testing begins. The test is not for His benefit. The test is for yours. The fire does not show God what you are made of. The fire shows you what you are made of. There are things about your own capacity, your own depth, your own resilience that you would never have discovered in a season of ease. Comfort does not reveal character. Crisis does. Pressure does. The long seasons of waiting and wondering and carrying weight that seems too heavy for one person. Those are the seasons that pull up from within you, things that have always been there but were never activated until the conditions demanded it. And what has been pulled up from within you through this test is extraordinary, not ordinary endurance, not just the quiet resignation of someone who had no other option. What has been pulled up from you is an active, intentional, sacrificial love that kept choosing faithfulness when faithfulness was the harder road. That is not something that can be manufactured. That is not something that can be learned from a book or copied from someone else. That is something that has to be forged, and the only forge strong enough to produce it is the exact kind of fire you have been walking through. If this message is reaching something deep in your spirit right now, if you feel the truth of these words landing in a place inside you that has needed this confirmation, we want to ask you gently and genuinely to share this message with someone who needs to hear it. Not because a number matters to this channel, but because you already know someone. There is already a face forming in your mind. Someone who is in the middle of their own test. Someone who is wondering whether their faithfulness has any value. Someone who is on the verge of letting go of the very love that God is trying to prove through them. You sharing this could be the exact moment that keeps them from giving up. That is not a small thing. That is a divine assignment wrapped inside a simple act. And if this channel has been a place where you have found strength, where you have felt seen, where the messages have met you in moments when you needed them most, we ask you to subscribe if you have not already, and to like this video so that it can find its way to more people who are waiting for exactly this word. Every time you engage, you are not just supporting a channel. You are participating in carrying a message to someone whose life may be changed by it. We also want to say something from a place of complete sincerity. If this ministry has brought value to your life and you feel moved to help us continue and sustain this work, we have placed a support link in the description below. Maintaining this kind of ministry, creating content that is built to reach the heart and not just the ear, takes time and devotion and resources. If you feel led to give, we receive it with deep gratitude, but we want to be absolutely clear that your support is entirely voluntary. There is no obligation. There is no condition attached to any blessing mentioned in this message. Whether you are able to give or not, we are genuinely thankful that you are here, that you chose to listen, that you are walking this journey for us. Your presence alone is a gift to this community. Because the truth is, the people who gather in spaces like this one are not ordinary. They are the ones who are still seeking when others have stopped. They are the ones who still believe when the evidence seems thin. They are the ones who still show up for God even in the seasons when the road is dark and the silence is loud. That is who you are, and the love that has brought you through every test you have faced is the same love that will carry you into every promise that is waiting on the other side of what you have endured. The fire you were in was not a punishment. It was a preparation. And what is being prepared for you on the other side of this season and is proportional, not just to your suffering, but to the love you chose to maintain in the middle of it. Every moment you chose not to harden, you were adding to what God is about to pour out over your life. Every moment you extended grace when you deserved to receive it and did not, you were building a reservoir in the Spirit that is now full and ready to overflow. The love you forged in that fire is not just a personal quality. It is a weapon. It is a tool. It is a calling. And in the sections ahead, we are going to go even deeper into what that means, into why the enemy targeted you so specifically, into why the people who left your life could not be allowed to stay, and into the extraordinary reward that God has been holding in reserve for the one who passed the test of love. Stay with this. Keep receiving. Because what is coming next is going to answer questions your heart has been carrying for a very long time. You noticed it happening, but you did not fully understand it at the time. One by one, people began to exit your life. Some left loudly, with arguments and accusations and words that cut deep enough to leave marks you are still carrying. Some left quietly, fading so gradually that you barely noticed until one day you looked around and realized the space where they used to stand was simply empty. Some left in ways that confused you, people you had loved well, people you had shown up for. Consistently, people you had given your best to, and yet they still walked away as though none of it had mattered. And in the aftermath of each departure, you were left with the same aching question that no one seemed able to answer. Why? Why? When you loved so faithfully, did people keep leaving? That question deserves a real answer, not a surface-level comfort designed to make the pain more manageable, but a deep, spiritual, honest answer that gets to the root of what was actually happening in those seasons of loss. And the answer is this: not everyone who was in your life was assigned to your life. There is a difference between the people who were placed in your path for a season and the people who are covenanted to walk with you into your destiny. And the God who loves you too much to let you carry the wrong people into your next chapter was the one doing the separating. Even when the separating felt like abandonment, even when it felt like rejection, even when it felt like you were being punished for loving too much. Think about what it would have meant for some of those people to remain. Think about the ones who did not celebrate your growth, who became uncomfortable when you began to change, who seemed to need you to stay small in order for them to feel secure. If those people had stayed, if that relationship had continued, if that connection had been preserved at the cost of your calling, where would you be right now? Not where God is trying to take you, not standing at the threshold of the season He has been preparing for you. You would be anchored to a version of yourself that was never meant to be your permanent address. You were meant to grow. You were meant to expand. You were meant to step into dimensions of purpose that some of the people around you simply did not have the capacity to enter with you. And here is the part that required the most love from God toward you. He could not always explain the removal while it was happening. He could not send you a detailed report outlining exactly why this person needed to exit your life, exactly what would have gone wrong if they had stayed, exactly how their presence would have limited or damaged or derailed the very thing He was building in you. Because if He had explained it, you would have tried to fix it. You would have worked harder at the relationship. You would have poured more of yourself into someone who was not positioned to carry what you were carrying. You would have chosen the familiar comfort of keeping what you had, for the unfamiliar discomfort of trusting God with what he was doing. So instead, he allowed the exits to happen in ways that left you without a tidy explanation. He allowed the confusion. He allowed the grief. He allowed you to sit in the middle of the loss and feel the full weight of it, not because he was indifferent to your pain, but because he knew that the pain itself was doing something essential in you. Grief, when it is surrendered to God rather than allowed to harden into bitterness, becomes one of the most powerful refining forces in a human life. The partial grief of losing people you loved opened up space in you. It created room. It carved out a depth that could only be filled by something greater than what had been taken. There is a passage in the book of John, chapter 15, verse 2, where Jesus speaks about the Father as a gardener and says that every branch that bears fruit, he prunes so that it will bear even more fruit. Pruning is not punishment. Pruning is not a sign that the vine is unhealthy. Pruning is what a skilled gardener does to a branch that is already producing, specifically because he wants it to produce more. The cut is not the end of the story. The cut is the beginning of the next level of fruitfulness. And every relationship that was cut from your life, every connection that was pruned away, was not removed because you were failing. It was removed because you were growing. And the branch could not bear the weight of what was coming without the pruning first. But let us be honest about something, because this message is not designed to gloss over the reality of what you experienced. Some of those departures were genuinely painful in ways that went beyond spiritual explanation in the moment. Some of those people were not strangers. They were people you had built history with. People who knew your story, who had seen you at your lowest, who had spoken words of promise and commitment over your life. And when they left, they did not just take their presence. They took a version of trust that you will never quite offer in the same way again. They changed something in you. They left a mark. And God knows that. He does not minimize it. He does not wave a hand at your grief and tell you it should not have hurt because it was all part of a plan. He is acquainted with sorrow. He understands loss from the inside, and he is not asking you to pretend that what you lost did not matter. He is asking you to trust that what he is building in the space this was created by that loss matters even more. Not because the people were worthless, but because what God has reserved for you requires you that has been shaped by exactly the kind of love and loss you have already walked through. The ones who could not stay were also, in many cases, the ones who were not able to handle what was growing inside you. There is a particular kind of discomfort that people feel when they are around someone who carries a calling. They may not be able to name it. They may not even consciously recognize what they are responding to, but something in the spirit recognizes when another person is operating at a frequency that surpasses the ordinary, and that recognition can produce either admiration or resistance depending on the condition of the heart. Some of the people who left you did not leave because you did something wrong. They left because your growth confronted something in them that they were not ready to face. Your faithfulness made their own compromise more visible. Your love made their own capacity for love feel insufficient. And rather than allow that confrontation to lead them toward change, they chose instead to remove themselves from the mirror. That is not a failure on your part. That is the cost of being the kind of person who carries light. Light does not force anyone to see, but it does make the darkness harder to ignore. And for people who have made a peace with their darkness, the presence of someone walking in consistent light becomes deeply uncomfortable. Your very existence began to ask questions they did not want to answer. And so they left. And as they left, You were being refined in ways you are only now beginning to understand. Because every exit taught you something about love that easy seasons could never have taught. You learned that real love is not dependent on reciprocation to remain real. You learned that you could be wronged and still choose not to become someone defined by that wrong. You learned that does not have to graduate into bitterness, that loss does not have to produce hardness, that the closing of one door does not require you to board up every other door in your life out of self-protection. Those lessons are not small. Those are the kinds of lessons that take most people a lifetime to learn, and even then, many of them never fully learn them. But you have been learning them in real time, under real pressure, with real tears and real costs attached. And what those lessons have produced in you is a version of yourself that is stronger, deeper, more grounded, and more ready than you have ever been before. The people who left could not stay because they were not built for where you are going. And where you are going requires exactly the person you have become through their leaving. Hold that truth close, because in the sections ahead, what God is about to show you will begin to make the losses look like the very thing that was preparing you for everything you have been believing for. There were nights when no one knew, nights when the house was quiet, and the world around you had settled into its ordinary rhythms, and you were alone with the full weight of everything you had been carrying. Nights when the strength you had shown to everyone else during the day had finally run out, and in the privacy of that darkness, you allowed yourself to feel what you had been holding back. The tears came then, not always loud, not always dramatic, but steady and deep and drawn from a place in you that words have never been quite adequate to describe. You cried for what you had lost. You cried for what had not yet come. You cried for the version of your life you had imagined and the distance between that vision and the reality you were living. You cried sometimes simply because the weight was too much to carry dry-eyed any longer. And here is what you need to understand about every single one of those tears. Not one of them fell without being seen. Not one of them hit the ground without being caught. The God who formed you, the God who chose you before the foundation of the world, the God who has been orchestrating every detail of your story with a precision that the human mind cannot fully comprehend, that God was present in every one of those dark and private moments. He was not watching from a distance with a detached, administrative interest in your progress. He was close. Closer than the breath in your lungs, closer than the next heartbeat, closer than the silence that surrounded you in those moments when you felt most alone. He was there, and he was collecting everything. The book of Psalms, chapter 56, verse 8, speaks of God collecting your tears in a bottle and recording them in his book. That is not poetry designed merely to comfort. That is a spiritual reality. There is a heavenly record of your faithfulness, and that record is not built from your successes or your victories or the moments when your faith was strong and your praise was loud and everything felt aligned. That record is built most powerfully from the moments when everything in the natural world gave you permission to give up, and you chose instead to keep going. Every tear you cried in private while still choosing to trust God in public was an entry in that record. Every night you went to sleep in uncertainty and woke up the next morning and chose to believe again was written down. Every moment you extended love when love had cost you, everything was documented in a book that heaven takes seriously. Your tears were never wasted. That is the declaration that heaven is making over your life right now. Nothing that you poured out in those seasons of pain was poured out in vain. The nights of crying did not disappear into an indifferent void. They were gathered, they were held, and they are being converted right now in the economy of heaven into something that has a value far beyond what you paid to produce it. Because that is how the kingdom of God works. It does not operate on the same exchange rate as the natural world. In the natural world, tears represent loss. They represent the overflow of pain that has exceeded the body's ability to contain it. But in the kingdom of God, tears represent investment. They represent the price of a harvest that is coming, a harvest that is precisely proportional to the depth of the sorrow that purchased it. Think about the agricultural reality that undergirds so much of biblical teaching. A seed does not produce a harvest by remaining comfortable. A seed produces a harvest by being placed into the ground, into darkness, into an environment that looks to any outside observer like death. And for a season, from the outside, there is no visible evidence that anything is happening. The ground does not immediately sprout results. There is a hidden process occurring beneath the surface, a process that requires time and pressure and the exact conditions that look least like growth. And then, in the appointed season, what was buried breaks through. What looked like loss becomes the source of an abundance that would never have been possible if the seed had remained above ground and protected from the discomfort of the soil. You have been the seed. Your tears have been the water. Your faithfulness in the dark has been the root system growing in ways you could not see. And the harvest that is coming is not a small or tentative thing. It is the full, abundant, overflowing result of every single investment your tears represented. God does not give back in the same measure that was given to him. He gives back pressed down, shaken together, and running over, as Luke chapter 6 verse 38 describes. The return on what you have sown through your suffering is going to exceed what you lost in ways that will take your breath away. But we want to pause here for just a moment, because if this message has been meeting you in a deep place, we want to ask you to do something simple and genuine. If these words have brought you comfort, if they have answered something your heart has been carrying, if they have reminded you that your tears have not been invisible or meaningless, would you share this video with someone who needs to hear it today? You already know who that person is. Their name or their face has probably already come to your mind. Someone who has been crying in private and wondering if any of it matters. Someone who is in the middle of a season that feels too heavy and too long. Sharing this costs you nothing but a moment, and it could be the lifeline that someone else has been waiting for without knowing where to find it. And if you have been walking with this channel for a while, if these messages have been a consistent source of strength for you in the seasons when strength was hard to find, we want to invite you genuinely and without pressure to like this video and to subscribe if you have not already done so. Not because a number on a screen changes the truth of what God is doing in your life, but because when you engage with this content, you are helping it find its way to more people who are sitting in the dark right now, crying tears that they believe no one is counting, carrying weight that they believe no one is measuring. Your simple act of engagement becomes part of the way this message travels to the people who need it most. We also want to say something with complete sincerity about sustaining this ministry. Creating content that is built to reach the spirit and not just the surface. That is crafted with genuine care for the person on the other side of the screen. That takes time and prayer and devotion and resources. If this channel has added real value to your life and you feel moved in your heart to help us continue this work, we have placed a support link in the description below. Every contribution, no matter how small, helps us maintain this ministry and keep these messages available for the people who need them. But we want to be absolutely clear. Your support is entirely voluntary. There is no condition attached, no blessing withheld, no favor of God that is contingent on whether you give, whether you are able to support financially or not. We are genuinely, deeply grateful that you are here. Your presence in this community, your willingness to listen, your faithfulness in showing up for these messages, that means more than we can adequately express. Because the people who gather here are not ordinary. They are the ones who are still reaching when others have stopped. They are the ones who still believe in the dark what they declared in the light. They are the ones whose tears have been the very currency of a harvest that is closer than it has ever been before. And that harvest, beloved, is not a vague promise floating somewhere in an indefinite future. It is specific. It is prepared. It has your name written on it. Every tear that you cried in secret was a seed planted in soil that God Himself prepared, and the season of that seed's return is not far off. The ground is already moving. The breakthrough is already rising. What was buried in the season of sorrow is already pushing through the surface in the realm of the Spirit, and what you will see in the natural very soon is the manifestation of what your faithfulness has been building in the invisible. Do not despise the tears you cried. Do not look back on those dark nights with shame or regret or a sense that they represented weakness. Look back on them the way a farmer looks at a field he sowed in the rain, knowing that the very conditions that made the planting uncomfortable were the conditions that made the harvest inevitable. You planted in tears. You are about to reap in joy, and the joy that is coming will be so full, so complete, so undeniably from the hand of God that every night of crying will finally make a sense that only eternity could have produced. There is something you need to understand about why your life has felt like a battlefield. Not a metaphorical battlefield, not a poetic description designed to make your struggles sound more dramatic than they are, but an actual, strategic, deliberately targeted spiritual conflict. The warfare you have experienced has not been random. The attacks that came against your peace, your relationships, your finances, your health, your sense of identity and worth, those were not the indiscriminate collateral damage of living in a broken world. They were aimed. They were calculated. They came from a source that studied you, assessed you, measured what was inside you, and then designed a campaign specifically engineered to take you out before you could fully step into what you were created to do. The enemy knew what was inside you before you did. That is the truth that changes the entire framework through which you understand your suffering. When darkness looks at a human life, it does not see what the natural eye sees. It does not see your job title, or your bank balance, or your social standing, or the external markers by which the world assigns value. It sees what is in the spirit. It sees the assignment written over your life before you were born. It sees the calling, the anointing, the capacity, the depth of love and faith and purpose that God deposited in you before you took your first breath. And when darkness sees all of that concentrated in a single human life, it does not shrug and move on. It mobilizes. Think about this honestly. If you were genuinely insignificant, if your life genuinely posed no threat to the kingdom of darkness, why would such significant resources be deployed against you? Small targets do not draw heavy fire. Ordinary people living ordinary lives with ordinary levels of spiritual impact do not become the focus of sustained, relentless, multi-layered attacks. The level of opposition you have faced is not evidence of your weakness. It is evidence of your worth. It is the clearest possible indicator that what is inside you, the love you carry, the faith you have refused to abandon, the calling that has been written over your life, represents a genuine and serious threat to everything darkness is trying to build in the earth. The enemy targeted your love specifically, not just your faith, not just your purpose in a general sense, but the particular quality of love that lives in you. And he targeted it because love, genuine, deep, sacrificial, persistent love, is one of the most powerful forces in the spiritual universe. It is not a soft or sentimental thing. It is not a passive quality that makes people feel warm and comfortable. The love that God places in His chosen ones is a weapon of supernatural potency. It disarms strongholds. It breaks chains that years of striving could not loosen. It opens doors that no amount of human strategy could unlock. It builds bridges across divisions that hatred has spent generations constructing. And it carries in it the DNA of God Himself, because God is love, not merely loving, not love as one of many attributes, but love as His essential nature and being. When the enemy looks at someone who carries that kind of love and recognizes that it is rooted not in emotion but in covenant, not in feeling but in choice, not in the favorable circumstances of a comfortable life but in the deep settled conviction of a surrendered heart, he knows he is looking at something that could undo everything he has built, and so he comes against it with everything he has. He sends betrayal to see if the love will curdle into suspicion. He sends rejection to see if the love will retreat into isolation. He sends loss to see if the love will collapse into grief that never resolves. He sends silence from heaven, or what feels like silence, to see if the love will grow cold when it stops receiving the warmth of felt divine presence. He sends prolonged waiting to see if the love will eventually decide that faithfulness is not worth the cost. Every single one of those attacks was a test of a different dimension, and you faced them. Not perfectly, because no one faces them perfectly. There were moments of doubt. There were moments when the love flickered, and the faith grew thin, and the temptation to simply stop caring was genuinely strong. There were moments when bitterness was close enough to taste, when the decision to harden felt like the only rational response to what you had been through. Those moments were real, and they are not held against you. God does not grade on a standard of perfection. He grades on the standard of the heart that keeps returning to Him even after the stumble. The love that keeps choosing Him even when choosing Him is the more difficult option. And through every one of those attacks, something remarkable was happening beneath the surface of your pain. The love inside you was being proven. Not just proven to God, who already knew it was there, but proven to the principalities and powers that had spent years trying to extinguish it. Every time darkness sent betrayal and your love held, it was a public declaration in the spirit realm that this love was not contingent on how well you were treated. Every time darkness sent rejection and your love persisted, it was a testimony broadcast through the heavenly places that this love was not dependent on being received in order to keep giving. Every time darkness sent loss and your love refused to become bitterness, the entire kingdom of darkness was served notice that the weapon they had deployed had failed, that what they had attacked had not broken, but had instead been made more unbreakable by the very pressure they had applied. You need to sit with that reality for a moment. The enemy's greatest attacks against you have not produced the result he intended. They have not extinguished your love. They have not destroyed your faith. They have not succeeded in turning you into a bitter, closed off, spiritually dead version of yourself. Instead, every attack has served, despite itself, as a refining force that has made you more of what God designed you to be. The enemy has been an unwilling and unknowing participant in your preparation. He thought he was breaking you. He was actually building you. He thought he was diminishing you. He was actually deepening you. He thought he was taking things from you that would leave you impoverished and weak. He was actually clearing space for an abundance that his interference could not prevent. There is a principle that runs through all of Scripture and all of sacred history, and it is this: God is so sovereign, so completely in authority over every dimension of reality, that he is able to take even the schemes of the enemy and weave them into the pattern of his purpose for your life. What was meant to destroy you has been redirected into what is defining you. What was sent to steal your love has instead revealed the depth and the durability of that love in ways that nothing else could have accomplished. The attack did not succeed, it backfired. And the version of you that stands on the other side of every assault that was launched against your heart is not a diminished version. It is a proven version, tested, tried, refined, and found to be exactly what God declared you to be before the test ever began. Your presence in the world is not a small thing. The love you carry is not a small thing. The fact that you have maintained the capacity for genuine love, genuine compassion, genuine faith through everything that was thrown at you, that is not a small thing. It is a supernatural thing. It is evidence that what is in you is stronger than what has come against you, and that the God who placed it there knew exactly what he was doing when he chose you to carry it. The warfare you have endured was proportional to the purpose you carry, and the purpose you carry is greater than anything the enemy was ever going to be able to eliminate, because it was sealed in you by a God whose plans are not subject to cancellation by the schemes of darkness. Every weapon that was formed against you has failed to prosper in the ultimate sense, because here you are, still standing, still loving, still believing, still carrying in your chest a flame that all the forces of hell have been unable to extinguish. That flame is not diminishing. It is about to become a fire that illuminates everything around you. And in the sections ahead, you are going to discover what happens when a love that has been tested this thoroughly is finally released into the fullness of the purpose it was always meant to serve. There was a moment. You may not have marked it on a calendar. You may not have recognized it as significant while it was happening. But there was a specific moment in your journey when everything in your natural circumstances was telling you to let go of God, and you chose instead to hold on. Not because holding on felt triumphant, not because faith surged through you like a wave and carried you forward on a tide of spiritual confidence, but because somewhere beneath the exhaustion, beneath the confusion, beneath the weight of everything that had gone wrong and everything that had not yet gone right, something in you simply refused to release its grip on the God who had called you. Moment, that quiet, unspectacular, deeply personal moment of choosing surrender when surrender felt indistinguishable from defeat. That was the moment heaven marked you as faithful. It is important that you understand what surrender actually means in the kingdom of God, because the world has taught you a definition of surrender that has nothing to do with its true spiritual nature. In the natural world, surrender is what happens when a force has been overcome. It is the white flag raised by the side that has run out of options. It is defeat acknowledged, resistance abandoned, the concession that the fight has been lost. And when God asks you to surrender, it can feel from the outside like exactly that kind of defeat, because the instructions that come with genuine surrender are often the ones that make the least logical sense in the moment they are given. Surrender your need to understand why this happened. Surrender your timeline for when things should change. Surrender your right to be angry at the people who wronged you. Surrender the plan you had built for your life and open your hands to receive a plan you did not design. Surrender the outcome you prayed for so specifically, and trust the wisdom of the God who sees what you cannot. Each one of those surrenders costs something real. Each one requires you to release something that your natural mind wants desperately to hold on to, because holding on feels like maintaining some degree of control over a life that is often felt entirely out of your control. But here is what true surrender actually is in the spirit. It is not defeat. It is not weakness. It is not the spiritual equivalent of giving up. True surrender is the most powerful act of faith a human being can perform, because it is the act of saying to God, I trust you more than I trust my own understanding. I trust your plan more than I trust my own strategy. I trust your timing more than I trust my own sense of what should be happening right now. I trust your love for me more than I trust the evidence of my current circumstances. That declaration, made from the center of pain and confusion and loss, is not a small thing. It is not a simple thing. It is one of the hardest things a human heart can do. And it is the thing that releases heaven to move on your behalf in ways that your own striving could never have produced. You made that declaration. Maybe not in those exact words. Maybe not in a moment of dramatic spiritual clarity where everything felt sacred and intentional. Maybe it came out as a whispered prayer through tears in the middle of a sleepless night. Maybe it came out as a simple, exhausted decision to stop fighting the direction God was clearly trying to move you. Maybe it came out as the choice to walk into church one more Sunday when everything in you wanted to stay home and disconnect. However, it looked in the external, whatever form it took in the particular geography of your life and your pain, you surrendered. You chose God when it cost you something real to do so, and that choice was witnessed. The book of Hebrews, chapter 11, is often called the Hall of Faith, and it catalogs person after person who chose to trust God when the evidence in the natural realm gave them no rational reason to do so. Abraham leaving a home he knew for a destination he had never seen. Moses choosing the suffering of God's people over the pleasures of Egypt. These were not people who had all the answers. They were not people who surrendered from a position of comfort and certainty. They were people who looked at the gap between what they could see and what God had promised and chose to step into that gap anyway. And Scripture says that God was not ashamed to be called their God. That same declaration stands over your life today. The God of heaven is not ashamed to be called your God. He is not distancing himself from the mess of your journey or the imperfection of your faith. He is leaning in. He is claiming you. He is saying to the principalities and powers that have been watching your life, that one is mine. And now, we want to take a moment to speak to you about something outside the message itself, because this ministry exists to carry words like these to people who need them, and that work does not happen without a community that believes in it. If this message has been speaking to something real in your spirit today, if these words have reached a place in you that has needed this kind of confirmation, we want to gently and genuinely ask you to like this video and share it with someone in your life who is in the middle of their own moment of costly surrender. You know someone who is right now choosing whether to hold on or let go of God. Your sharing this could be the voice that reaches them at exactly the right moment. And if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, we invite you to do that today. Not as a transaction, not as something you owe in exchange for what you have received, but as a way of staying connected to a flow of content that is created with genuine care for your spiritual journey. Every message on this channel is built to reach the heart, to speak to the real and specific experiences of people who are walking the road of faith through difficult terrain. Subscribing means you will not miss What comes next and what comes next in this series of messages is going to go even deeper into the promises that are waiting for you on the other side of everything you have already endured. If this channel has been a source of strength and nourishment for your spirit, and you feel moved in your heart to support the continuation of this work, we have placed a link in the description below where you can do so. Maintaining a ministry that creates content at this level of intentionality and depth requires time, prayer, and resources. If you feel led to give, we receive your support with genuine gratitude, and we want you to know that it goes directly toward keeping these messages available for the people who need them most. But we want to say again, with complete sincerity, that your support is entirely voluntary. There is no spiritual obligation attached. There is no blessing that is conditional on your giving, whether you are able to contribute or not. We are deeply thankful that you are here, that you have chosen to listen, that you are part of this community of people who are still pressing in when pressing in is hard. Because the people who find their way to messages like this one are not here by accident. They are the ones who chose God when it cost them something. They are the ones who surrendered when surrender felt like losing, and discovered in the act of letting go that they were actually stepping into the most powerful position their faith had ever occupied. They are the ones whose surrender became the very mechanism through which heaven was released to move on their behalf. Your surrender was not weakness. It was the most courageous spiritual act you have ever performed. It was the moment you stopped insisting that your plan was the right one and opened your hands to receive what God had always intended to give you. And what God intends to give you, beloved, is not a consolation prize for the things you lost along the way. It is not a lesser version of the life you had hoped for. It is the full, abundant, purposeful, deeply satisfying life that He designed for you before you were born. The life that required exactly the kind of faith and love and surrender that you have been demonstrating through every difficult season you have endured. The cost of what you chose has been real. The surrender has not been painless or easy or quick, but the reward that is being prepared in response to what you have given is so far beyond what you have paid that when you finally see it in full, every sacrifice will suddenly make a sense that your mind could not have grasped in the middle of the process. What you surrendered was temporal. What God is returning to you is eternal. What you released in the natural, He has been multiplying in the spirit. And the moment of that multiplication becoming visible in your life is not a distant event on an indefinite horizon. It is close. It is coming. And what He is releasing begins with a faithfulness that was proven in the fire of the most costly surrender you have ever made. There is a law written into the fabric of the kingdom of God that the natural world does not fully understand, but that every person who has walked the road of genuine faith eventually discovers. It is not a law of equal exchange, where what you give returns to you in precisely the same measure you gave it. It is a law of supernatural proportion, where what is sown in faithfulness, especially faithfulness that cost something real, is returned in a measure so far beyond the original investment that the comparison almost defies description. This law is not a motivational concept. It is not a prosperity formula designed to make faith feel like a transaction. It is a deep, settled, immovable principle of how the kingdom of God operates, and it is working right now, in this very season, on your behalf. You need to understand what has been accumulating in the Spirit during the years of your testing. Because the test was not a pause in your story. It was not a waiting room where time stood still while you endured what needed to be endured, and then life resumed where it had left off. The test was an active season of construction. While you were in the fire, while you were surrendering and choosing faithfulness and refusing to harden and holding on through nights that felt endless, something was being built in the invisible realm that corresponds directly to everything you walked through. Every act of love that cost you something added to it. Every tear that was surrendered to God rather than allowed to become bitterness added to it. Every morning you chose to believe again when the night had made belief feel impossible added to it. And what has been built through all of that is not a small or modest structure. It is a storehouse of divine response that is now full and ready to be opened over your life. The scripture that speaks most directly to the reality is found in the book of Galatians, chapter 6, verse 9, where Paul writes that we should not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. That phrase, due season, is one of the most important phrases in the entire biblical narrative. It means that the harvest is not subject to your timeline. It is not released according to when you feel ready for it or when the circumstances of your life seem most favorable for it, or when the waiting has reached a length that seems sufficient to you. It is released in the season that God has determined, the season that aligns not just with your need, but with your readiness. Not just with your desire, but with the full preparation of everything that needs to be in place for what He is releasing to land in your life, with its full intended impact. And beloved, the due season for your life is not somewhere in a distant future that you cannot see from where you are standing. The accumulation of everything you have sown through your faithfulness has been building toward a specific moment of release. And the signs of that release are already beginning to appear around the edges of your life. The quiet shift you have been sensing, the feeling that something is about to change, the atmospheric rearrangement that you have been perceiving in the spirit, those are not wishful thinking. Those are the first tremors of a breakthrough that is already in motion in the realm of the spirit and is about to become visible in the realm of the natural. But let us be specific about what the reward of your faithfulness actually looks like, because vague promises of blessing do not do justice to the particular and intentional nature of what God is preparing for you. What is coming into your life is not a generic overflow that could apply to anyone. What is coming is specifically calibrated to the specific losses you endured, the specific love you demonstrated, the specific areas where your faithfulness was proven under the most intense pressure. God is not in the business of approximate restoration. He is in the business of precise, detailed, deeply personal redemption that addresses not just the broad strokes of what you lost, but the particular textures of pain that only you know about. The relationships that broke and left you wondering whether genuine connection was possible for you. God is preparing connections that will carry a depth and a covenant quality that you have never experienced before. Not replacements for what was lost, because what is coming is not a copy of something old, but an original of something entirely new. Relationships built on a foundation of mutual understanding, shared calling, and a love that has been tested and proven on both sides. The people who are being drawn into your next chapter are people who have also been in fires of their own, who have also chosen faithfulness when faithfulness was costly, who also carry in them the particular depth that only the refining process can produce. You are going to recognize each other, not because you will look alike on the surface, but because something in the spirit will resonate. One proven love recognizing another, one tested faith bearing witness to another. The areas of your life where loss stripped away what you had built, the places where you watched things collapse that you had invested deeply in. Those are the very areas where God is about to demonstrate a restoration so thorough and so abundant that the rebuilt version will make the original look like a rough draft. He is not giving you back exactly what was taken. He is giving you the fullness of what was originally intended before the enemy interfered with the process. The version that was always meant to exist, the life that was designed before opposition complicated it, is what is being reconstructed in this season. And it is being built on a foundation that has now been tested and proven capable of holding the weight of everything God intends to place upon it. Your capacity for love, the very thing that was targeted so relentlessly throughout your testing, is about to become the most visible and undeniable feature of the new season you are entering. Because love that has been tested and proven does not express itself the same way that untested love does. Untested love is generous and warm and genuine, but it is also somewhat fragile, somewhat dependent on favorable conditions, somewhat vulnerable to the first significant storm that comes against it. Tested love is different. Tested love has already been to the bottom of what it costs to keep loving when love is not returned. And it chose to keep loving anyway. Tested love has already looked bitterness in the face and decided that bitterness was not the home it wanted to live in. Tested love has already been to the place where giving up was an option and walked back from that edge by choice. That kind of love, your kind of love, is a force in the earth that produces effects far beyond what the person carrying it is able to fully observe or measure. When you love people from the depth of what has been forged in you through this season of testing, something happens in the spirit around those people that goes beyond the natural warmth of human connection. Something breaks open, something softens, something becomes possible that was not possible before you arrived. Your love carries an authority that was purchased by everything you paid to keep it alive through the fire. And that authority is now one of your most significant spiritual assets as you step into the season that is opening before you. The faithfulness you demonstrated when no one was watching is about to produce fruit that everyone will see. The love you maintained in private, in the quiet moments when the choice was entirely your own and no audience was present to validate it, is about to express itself in ways that are public and visible and impossible to explain by any natural accounting. People in your life are going to observe what God does in your next chapter, and they are not going to have a natural framework for understanding how someone who went through what you went through arrived at where you are arriving. And that absence of natural explanation is intentional. It is designed to point not to your resilience, though your resilience is real and remarkable, but to the God who honored your faithfulness with a response that only He could produce. The reward hidden in your faithfulness is not hidden much longer. The storehouse that was built through every season of costly love and costly surrender is not being kept from you indefinitely. It is being kept for you, preserved with perfect care, maintained in full until the moment of your due season arrives. And the weight of what is stored there, the accumulated return on every investment of faith and love and perseverance that you have made through the hardest chapters of your journey, is about to be released into your hands in a measure that will redefine what you thought was possible for your life. The due season is not coming, it is here. You have always known that you were different. Not in the way that pride speaks of difference. Not in the self-congratulatory sense of someone who believes they are simply better than the people around them, but in a quieter, deeper, sometimes unsettling way. A way that has occasionally made you feel more isolated than celebrated. You felt things more deeply than the people around you seemed to. You cared about things that others appeared to move past without a second thought. You found yourself carrying the weight of other people's pain as though it belonged to you, of strangers, feeling the grief of situations that had no direct connection to your own life, absorbing the emotional atmosphere of every room you entered in ways that left you exhausted, in ways that were difficult to explain. You may have spent years wondering whether there was something wrong with you, whether the depth of your sensitivity was a flaw to be managed rather than a gift to be understood, whether the fact that you felt everything so intensely was evidence of weakness rather than the signature of something extraordinary placed inside you by a God who knew exactly what he was building when he put you together. The world around you, with its premium on emotional efficiency and its suspicion of vulnerability, did not always give you language for what you were experiencing. And so you carried it without a framework, feeling the fullness of what was in you without always knowing what it meant or what it was for. It was for this, everything you are about to step into. The capacity for love that lives in you, the depth of empathy that has sometimes felt like a burden, the sensitivity to the spiritual atmosphere of places and people and situations. These are not accidental features of your personality that developed randomly through the circumstances of your upbringing. They are intentional endowments. They are the specific tools that God placed in you because he already knew the assignment he was going to give you. And he knew that the assignment required who could feel what others feel, who could love what others overlook, who could remain present in the places where most people cannot bear to stay, because the weight of what is happening there is too much for a heart that has not been specifically prepared to carry it. Chosen ones love differently. That is not a statement about superiority. It is a statement about design. In the same way that a surgeon's hands are trained to a precision that ordinary hands do not possess. Not because the surgeon is more valuable as a human being, but because the specific calling requires a specific preparation. Your heart has been trained by God to a depth of love that ordinary emotional experience does not produce. The training was not comfortable. As you know better than most, the training involved loss and grief, and the particular pain of loving people and situations that did not always love you back. But the training produced exactly what it was designed to produce, a love that is deep enough, broad enough, resilient enough, and spiritually potent enough to accomplish what God has assigned to your hands in this next season. Think about the people in your life who have been most profoundly affected by your presence. Not the people you impressed with your achievements or your abilities, but the people who were genuinely changed by simply being loved by you. The person who told you, perhaps years later, that something you said or did at a specific moment had stayed with them and altered the direction of something important in their life. The person who found the courage to keep going because they knew you were in their corner. The person who felt seen for the first time because you took the time to actually look. These moments were not small. They were not the accidental byproducts of a kind personality. They were the early expressions of a love that was always meant to operate at a scale much larger than what you have been able to access in the seasons of limitation and testing. Because what God places in his chosen ones is never meant to remain contained. It is meant to flow. It is meant to move outward from the center of who you are and touch the lives of people who are waiting, without knowing they are waiting, for exactly the kind of love that you carry. The empathy that has sometimes exhausted you is about to become the very thing that opens doors no other key could unlock. The sensitivity that has sometimes made the world feel overwhelming is about to become the precise instrument through which God reaches people whose pain is so particular and so deep that only someone with your specific capacity for feeling could reach them where they actually are. Your love is a supernatural gift. Say that to yourself not as an affirmation, designed to make you feel better, but as a spiritual reality that changes how you understand your own history. The reason the enemy targeted your love so specifically is because he understood its potential in ways that you have not yet fully grasped. The reason the testing was so intense around your capacity to keep loving is because that capacity, fully activated and released into its divine purpose, represents one of the most significant threats to the kingdom of darkness that the earth has seen in your generation. You are not being told this to inflate you. You are being told this because you need to know what you are carrying so that you can steward it with the intentionality and the reverence that it deserves. If these words are landing somewhere deep in your spirit today, if something in you is responding to this message with a recognition that goes beyond the intellectual, we want to gently invite you to share this video with someone in your life who carries the same kind of depth. You know who they are. The ones who love too much by the world's standards. The ones who feel everything and have spent years wondering whether that intensity is a gift or a curse. Sharing this message could be the moment that reframes everything for them. The moment that gives them a spiritual context for what they have been carrying and a renewed sense of purpose for why they were made the way they were made. And if this channel has been a place where you have consistently found that kind of reframing, where the messages have met you in the specific places of your journey and given language and perspective and spiritual grounding for what you have been walking through, we want to invite you to like this video and to subscribe if you are not yet part of this community. Every time you engage with this content, you are helping it find its way to more people who love deeply and have sometimes wondered whether that depth was worth the cost of carrying it. We also want to say something with complete openness about the work behind these messages. Building a ministry that creates content specifically designed to reach the hearts of people who love deeply and carry much requires genuine dedication and real resources. If this channel has added consistent value to your journey and you feel genuinely moved to support the continuation of this work, we have placed a link in the description below. We also want you to know that if you check the pinned comment, you will find that link there as well for easy access. Every contribution helps us sustain and expand this ministry so that these messages can reach more people who are waiting for exactly this word. But we say it again with full sincerity, your support is entirely voluntary, no obligation, no condition, no spiritual pressure of any kind. Whether you give or not, you are valued here. Your presence in this community is itself a gift, and we do not take it lightly. Because the people who gather in this space are the ones who chose to keep loving when love was costly. They are the ones whose empathy has sometimes felt like a wound and is about to be revealed as a weapon. They are the ones who were designed from before birth to carry a quality of love that the world desperately needs and that God is now positioning to be released at a level and a scale that the testing seasons was never meant to contain permanently. You were built for more than surviving the fire. You were built for releasing what the fire produced. The love that came out of the testing, refined and proven, and more powerful than it was before the pressure was applied, is now ready to be expressed in the fullness of the assignment God has written over your life. Not in a trickle, not in the careful, guarded, self-protective way that pain sometimes teaches us to love, but in the full, unrestrained, divinely authorized flood of a love that has been proven capable of surviving everything that was thrown against it and coming out the other side more alive than it was when the test began. You love differently because you were made differently. And the world that is waiting for what you carry has no idea what is about to arrive. Something is turning, not in the distant future, not in a season so far removed from where you are standing that it requires a leap of imagination to believe in it, but right now, in the actual present tense of your life. Something is shifting in the spirit that is about to become undeniably visible in the natural. The tide that has been moving against you, the current that has made every step forward feel like it required twice the effort it should have, is reversing direction. And the reversal is not gradual or tentative. It is the kind of shift that happens when God decides that the season of testing has accomplished everything it was sent to accomplish, and the season of return is now authorized to begin. You need to understand what the season of return actually means, because it is not simply the restoration of what was lost. Restoration alone would be remarkable enough. The idea that God would take everything that was stripped away during the years of testing and give it back in full. But what God does in the season of return goes further than restoration. It goes into the territory of recompense, which is a word that means not just giving back what was taken, but adding to it the value of the time during which it was withheld, the years that the locust has eaten, as the book of Joel chapter 2 verse 25 describes, are not simply forgotten in the economy of God. They are calculated. They are accounted for. And the return that comes in the season of restoration includes not just the original but the interest, not just the principal but the accumulated value of every year that passed while the enemy was holding what belonged to you. Think about what that means for your specific story. The years you spent in seasons that felt barren, seasons where you were believing for things that did not come, working toward things that did not materialize, loving people who did not stay, building things that seemed to collapse before they could reach their full expression. Those years were not subtracted from your story. They were not a deficit that permanently reduced what was available to you. They were a debt that is owed to you, and the God who keeps perfect accounts is now in the process of settling that debt with a thoroughness and a generosity that will make the years of waiting look like the necessary prelude to an abundance you could not have received at an earlier stage of your preparation. The season of return is not coming to give you a version of what you prayed for that has been diminished by the delay. It is coming to give you the version that required the delay to be fully ready, both in the external world where what God is bringing together needed time to be assembled, and in you, where the person who needed to receive it needed the refining process to be complete before the weight of the blessing could be carried without it crushing what had not yet been fully built. You were not ready 5 years ago for what is coming now. You were not ready 3 years ago. The version of you that existed before the fire, before the testing, before the surrenders and the losses and the nights of crying that no one else saw, that version of you was not equipped to steward what God is about to place in your hands. But this version of you, the one that has been proven by everything you have walked through, this version is ready. And the readiness that has been produced in you is not just an internal spiritual quality, though it is certainly that. It is also a practical, tangible, visible readiness that will express itself in the decisions you make, the relationships you enter, the opportunities you recognize and respond to, the way you carry yourself in the new season. People who have not been through the fire often cannot tell the difference between an opportunity from God and an attractive distraction from the enemy, because they have not yet developed spiritual discernment that only comes from having been taken through seasons where the difference between those two things mattered in costly and irreversible ways. You have that discernment now. You have paid for it with the currency of your own testing, and it will serve you in the new season as one of your most valuable assets. The relationships that are being drawn into your life in this season of return are not ordinary connections. They are divine alignments. People who carry assignments that are complementary to yours. People whose strengths address your areas of vulnerability and whose needs your particular gifts are perfectly positioned to meet. These are not people you will have to strain to connect with or work to convince of your worth. They are people who will recognize you in the spirit immediately, the way that Elizabeth recognized Mary. When Mary walked through the door, something leaping in the spirit at the arrival of someone who carries what God has placed in them. You are about to walk through some doors, and when you do, there will be people on the other side who have been waiting for you, not knowing they were waiting, but recognizing immediately that your arrival was exactly what was needed. The doors themselves are already open, not metaphorically but spiritually, in the realm where the real decisions about your life are made, the decisions that then express themselves in the natural world as opportunities and encounters and sudden shifts in circumstances. Those doors have already been opened by the faithfulness you demonstrated during the test. The key that unlocked them was not a special prayer you prayed or a specific formula you followed. The key was the love that you refused to abandon, even when abandoning it would have been completely understandable. That love, proven and demonstrated and documented in the records of heaven, is the credential that opened the doors into your next chapter. Right now, if something in your spirit is resonating with the truth that your season is genuinely turning, we want to invite you to declare it out loud in the comments. Type the words, "My time now," as a bold, faith-filled declaration that you are stepping out of the season of waiting and into the season of receiving. My time now is not arrogance. It is not presumption. It is the language of someone who has been through the fire, who has paid the price of faithfulness, who has held on through every night that made holding on feel impossible, and who is now standing at the threshold of the new chapter, with open hands and a spirit that is ready to receive what heaven has been preparing. It is the declaration of a proven love stepping into its reward. Type it now. Let it be the line in the sand between everything you have endured and everything you are about to receive. And let it stand as your personal agreement with what God has already decided about this season of your life. Because the accumulation is real. The storehouse that was built through every act of costly love, every surrender, every night of tears that were given to God rather than allowed to become bitterness, every morning of choosing faith when fear was the easier option. That storehouse is full, and the God who filled it is the same God who is now directing its contents toward you with a precision and a generosity that no natural system of accounting could produce. The acceleration that is coming with this season is also something you need to prepare your spirit to receive. Because what God does in the season of return often happens faster than the natural mind expects. The years of slowness, the seasons where every step forward seemed to take more time and more effort than it should have, can condition you to expect that pace to continue indefinitely. But the same God who allowed the slowness during the testing is not bound to maintain that pace in the season of return. He is able to do in a single month what could not be accomplished in a year. He is able to open in a single week what was closed for a decade. He is able to shift in a single moment what appeared to be immovably fixed. And he is particularly inclined to do exactly that for the ones who maintain their love and their faith through the long seasons of waiting with demanding. that he moved faster than he had determined to move. You have not been waiting in vain. You have been waiting in preparation, and the preparation is complete. The season that is opening before you is not a continuation of what you have been walking through. It is a new chapter, genuinely new, carrying a quality and a character that the previous chapters could not contain, because you were not yet who you needed to be to inhabit it fully. You are that person now. The testing made you that person. The love that refused to die through everything that was thrown against it made you that person. And the new chapter is ready. The doors are open. The divine alignments are already in motion. And the God who tested your love and watched it hold through everything is now ready to show you what he had in mind when he chose you before the foundation of the world. The season of return begins now, not tomorrow, not when the circumstances look more favorable, not when you feel more ready than you feel in this moment now. In the middle of your still unresolved questions and your still healing wounds and your still forming understanding of everything God has been doing. Now is when the tide turns, and you are standing exactly where you need to be standing to receive everything that the turning tide is about to bring to your shore. You passed. Let those two words settle into every part of you that has been carrying the weight of uncertainty, every part that has wondered whether the faithfulness was enough, whether the love was real enough, whether the surrender was complete enough, whether God was truly watching through all of it. He was watching. He saw everything. He counted every tear, measured every act of love, witnessed every morning. You chose to get up and keep believing when the night had done its best to convince you to stop. And the verdict that has come back from the court of heaven is not conditional, not provisional, not subject to review. It is final and it is irrevocable. You passed the test of love. This is the moment in your story where everything that came before begins to make a different kind of sense. Not the complete sense that eternity alone will fully reveal, but a deeper sense than you have been able to access in the middle of the seasons that were testing you. The betrayals that broke something in you were the very pressure that revealed what could not be broken. The losses that left you standing in empty spaces were the very clearings that God needed in order to bring in what was too large to fit alongside what had to be removed. The silence that made you wonder whether God was still present was the very silence in which he was doing his most intricate and careful work in the depths of your character, building in the quiet what could not have been built in the noise. Every chapter of your story has been purposeful, not in the shallow sense that everything happens for a reason, a phrase that can feel dismissive when it is offered too quickly to someone in the middle of genuine pain, but in the deep and specific sense that a God of infinite wisdom and perfect love has been the author of your journey, writing with a pen that never makes accidental marks, allowing into your story only what he has already determined can be redeemed and repurposed for a glory that will far exceed the grief it cost to produce it. Your story is not a tragedy with a hopeful ending tacked on. Your story is an epic written from the end backward by a God who knew before the first chapter was written exactly what the final chapter would contain. And what the final chapter of this season contains is a you that has been made ready. Ready for the love that is coming. The kind of love that can only be fully received and fully stewarded by someone who understands what love actually costs. Ready for the purpose that is opening. The kind of purpose that requires a person who has been to the bottom of their own limitations and discovered there that God's strength is made perfect in exactly that kind of weakness. Ready for the abundance that is being released, the kind of abundance that does not corrupt or overwhelm someone who has learned in the seasons of lack that their identity is not determined by what they have or do not have, but by who God says they are in the midst of every condition. You are ready, and heaven is celebrating that readiness in ways that the Spirit in you can already sense, even if the natural mind has not yet fully caught up with what is happening. Before we close this message, we want to do something together. We want to pray, not a formal or distant prayer, but a genuine, personal, spirit-to-spirit conversation with the God who has been present through every moment of everything you have walked through. Wherever you are right now, whatever surrounds you in the natural, we invite you to close your eyes for just a moment and receive these words as though they are being spoken directly from the heart of the Father to yours. Father, we come before you right now on behalf of every person receiving this message. You know their name. You know their story. You know every tear they cried in private, every night they held on when letting go would have been easier, every moment they chose love when bitterness was the more available option. We thank you that you see them. We thank you that not one moment of their faithfulness has been overlooked or forgotten. We thank you that the test is complete and the verdict is in their favor. Now, Father, we ask you to release over their lives the fullness of what you have been preparing in the season of their testing. Release the relationships that carry covenant depth. Release the open doors that no opposition can close. Release the abundance that is proportional to the faithfulness they demonstrated when abundance was nowhere in sight. Heal every wound that the testing left behind. Restore every joy that the long seasons of waiting temporarily suspended, and let them feel, right now this moment, the weight of your love and your pleasure resting over them as the declaration that they are yours, they are chosen, proven, they are proven, and they are ready. In the name above every name, the name that carries all authority in heavers, and we receive it, we say, Amen. If that prayer touched something real in you, if something shifted in your spirit as those words were spoken over your life, we want to hear from you. This community of chosen ones, the people who gather in this space to receive these messages, is one of the most extraordinary collections of human beings we have ever had the privilege of being part of. The people here are not ordinary. They are the ones who are still pressing in when pressing in is hard, still believing when the evidence is thin, still loving when love has cost them more than most people will ever understand. If this message has carried something valuable to your spirit today, we want to gently ask you to share it with someone who needs it. Not because the number matters to us, but because you already know someone who is in the middle of their own test right now. Someone who is wondering whether their faithfulness means anything. Someone who is one discouraging day away from let go of the love that God is trying to prove through them. You're sharing this what could reach them at exactly the moment they need it most. That is not a small thing. That is a divine assignment wrapped inside a simple act. And if you have been walking with this channel and these messages have been a consistent source of strength and spiritual nourishment for your journey, we invite you to like this video and to subscribe if you have not already. Every time you engage, you help these messages find their way to more people who are waiting for exactly this word. Now we want to say something from a place of complete honesty and vulnerability, because this community deserves nothing less than that. This channel has had its monetization turned off by the platform. That means these videos no longer generate any income through the usual means that most channels rely on. But we have made a decision, a deliberate and prayerful decision, to keep making these videos anyway. Not because it is financially comfortable to do so, but because this is a ministry before it is anything else, and the people who need these messages need them regardless of whether the platform chooses to support the work of producing them. Every video on this channel is made entirely out of a calling to serve you, out of a genuine belief that the words God gives us to speak over your life matter, that the chosen ones who find their way to these messages are not here by accident, and that as long as God continues to give us words to speak, we'll continue to speak them regardless of what the platform decides about our eligibility to earn from doing so. If you feel moved in your heart to help us sustain this ministry, we have placed a donation link in the description below. You will also find it in the pinned comment where it is easy to access. Every contribution, whatever its size, goes directly toward keeping this ministry alive and these messages available for the people who need them. We receive every gift with deep gratitude and with a genuine awareness that it represents a real sacrifice from someone who chose to give. But we want to be absolutely clear, as we always want to be clear with this community. Your donation is entirely voluntary. There is no condition attached, no blessing withheld, no favor of God that depends on whether you give. If you are in a season where giving is not possible, we are no less grateful for your presence here. You being here, listening, receiving, and carrying these messages in your spirit is itself a form of support that we do not take lightly. You are not here by accident. You found this message because heaven directed you to it. You stayed because something in your spirit recognized the truth being spoken over your life. And you are leaving this message not the same as you arrived, because a word from God never returns void. It accomplishes what it was sent to accomplish, and what it was sent to accomplish in you today is the full and settled knowledge that you have been seen, that you have been tested, that you have been proven, and that the God who designed you for this moment is immeasurably proud of the love you chose to keep alive through everything that tried to extinguish it. You are chosen. You are proven. You are loved beyond what language can adequately express. And your best days, the days that will make everything you endured finally and completely make sense, are not behind you. They are ahead. They are close. And they are coming for you with the full force of a heaven that has been watching your faithfulness and has decided that the time of your reward is now. Go forward, beloved. Test is finished. The crown is waiting.